I am to continue attempting to be any kind of left-leaning public figure, it is essential not only that I attempt to improve myself, but also that I be able to draw my personal failings to a broader social system from which they originated. And I'm interested in that social system. And I'm interested in helping young men, or young people of any gender really, but broadly young men, get better at recognizing poor behavior in themselves and learning what they can do to improve upon it in the future.
On February 7, 2024, notable leftist political commentator Ian Koczynski, better known as Vaush, was on stream like any other day. He went to open a file on his computer called Taxes, and from what I can gather, this file did indeed contain his actual tax information. Now, why he would be sharing that information on stream, I have no idea. But when he went to open the file, he accidentally showed his whole audience an explicit image of a young cartoon girl performing a sexual act. And in that file were other images of drawn depictions of sex with animals and other various young, childlike looking girls in explicit positions. The commentary community from many different niches on the platform are all coming out to report on this absolute epic disaster that Vaush finds himself in. And it's starting to seem like this is a controversy that Vaush may never truly bounce back from. And in a perfect world, I don't think he would be allowed to. People like me, who have just barely discovered Vaush's content, have never heard of the allegations that are now being drug up again due to this most recent incident. And we are rightfully outraged, shocked, and disappointed, and we are voicing our disgust. But there is an even greater part of Vaush's audience that claim this is all a shallow attempt on other creators' behalves to garner clicks and clout. What these defenders fail to recognize is that the evidence we will cover today, evidence provided by Vaush himself, is more than enough to definitively end someone else's, really anyone else's, online career and to sully their reputation in perpetuity. But they simply refuse to believe that the almighty Vaush might be something other than the man he has spent so long trying to convince us all that he is.
Can I get your name and where you're from, if you don't mind?
I'm Kai.
Kai, can I get spelling for you?
Straight out of Dogtown, K-A-I. I'm Jesus Christ, and I can do anything I f***ing want to.
Hola chula! Thank you so much for clicking onto this video. If you are new here, well then hi, hello, my name is Kai, and if you're coming back to my channel, and oh my god, it's so great to see you again. Now, I wish that I hadn't taken so long to get back to making videos, and to be quite honest with you, I've been out of the loop on so many topics. So when this incident on Vaush came back to me, I actually was very shocked and felt compelled to make this video, and well, here we are. I started watching Vaush early last year, and he struck a chord with me that other political commentators just really hadn't until then. I really liked the way that he explained these very complicated topics in a way that I could better understand, and I really appreciated his trans rights debates because they genuinely taught me how to better defend and support the trans people in my life and in my community. I did notice that Vaush would frequently talk about his sexual proclivities on stream, and that he sleeps around a lot and with many different people. I always find it really unsettling when someone brings up their sexual conquest, especially when it is so far out of context of what their content is supposed to be about. It put me off, and I slowly stopped engaging with his channel. Every now and again, in a debate, a point would be made against Vaush that he had previously been on record defending the possession of CP or child pornography, saying that he couldn't find any moral or ethical reason why the possession of CP is wrong.
So, there's pedophiles, right, who buy child pornography. Mm-hmm. Would you say they should not be held responsible for doing that?
Yes.
Really? Even though they're directly supporting child rape?
Yeah, I think it's hypocritical. Because I bought my computer and the silicon in it was farmed in Africa by slaves. If I can do that and that's legal and no one's going to call me out my shit, then yeah, I have to be consistent in that respect.
Okay, look, I think there's levels to this. So I wouldn't equate buying a computer to buying child pornography.
People were upset by this because why wouldn't they be? And he ended up later hosting a stream where he invited a viewer to come on to ask some clarifying questions about what his message truly was.
So my position is that I'm anti-child porn. I don't think it's a good thing to have it. My frustration is I feel like there are other things that are bad for similar reasons that child porn is bad, but people don't really care about that. So let me run it through with you. Why is child porn bad? Not creating child porn, I mean, but like purchasing it.
So, like, why is it bad regardless of the way in which it's produced?
Sure. Well, we know. I mean, we don't even need to waste time. Of course, obviously, producing child porn requires harming a child. So that's off the bat. That's a pretty easy bad. The issue is that even if you're not hurting the kid, it's possible to like have a bunch of CP and never hurt the kid. You're still like producing, or you're consuming from an industry you're giving money to, and you're just broadly celebrating in a sense the harm of children. Yeah. So my argument with vegan gains was that I can use that exact same logic to argue against a lot of the commodity production that we participate in today.
It was then he changed his position to mean that the exploitation of labor via child slavery is really no different than the sexual abuse that comes from the manufacturing of CP, in an effort to change people's minds about cobalt and diamond mining in occupied nations and other areas of unethical economic practices. He later said that this was a poor choice of words, and he truly has never lived this down. Several times throughout Vaush's presence in the YouTube political space, he has defended or made allusions to owning and viewing CP and Loli. He has alluded to being a pedo, and what is even worse is that he self-reported his secondary Twitter where he was found to be engaging in more Loli content of confirmed underage girls. Vaush claims that his propensity for sexual degeneracy is well known in his community, as well that he enjoys hentai, as he has previously discussed his fetishes on his platform. I think that most reasonable people must have concluded that this was like a joke or hyperbole, as Vaush has created quite the provocative persona for himself. That's what his audience says anyway. They say that Vaush simply can't be a pedo because we're all just taking things wildly out of context or clip chimping him in order to discredit the progressive ideologies that he espouses. In defense of himself, Vaush said that he was unaware that the image was Loli, and that the original creator is actually a very well-known Loli artist. During this same stream, he admitted that he wishes that he was a horse, so that he could have sex with adult human women. So yeah. It's also noticed in that file that he had lewd images of a popular VTuber who is characterized by a young girl who is canonically said to be 16 years old. However, she is drawn to appear much younger. She looks about 13 years old. But she is voiced and ran by a fully adult woman. Don't let that muddy the water for you though, because the fact of the matter is that he is aroused by the image and the characteristics of her childlike cartoon avatar. Which is a sentence that I really didn't ever want to have to say. What the fuck? And the other part of it is that nobody controls what Vaush says except for himself. He is the one who runs his channel. He is the one who chooses what he says and what he keeps to himself and what he views in his own free time. His own words and behaviors give substantial credence to support that something isn't right with Vaush and that he possibly needs to seek professional help. For those of you sweet summer children in my audience who have never heard of lolicon before, allow me to ruin your entire life and explain to you the nuances of an art form called hentai. And I use the word art form in the most liberal sense of the word. Hentai is basically Japanese cartoon porn. What's important to know is that a lot of this content depicts known popular characters of safer work shows in sexually compromising roles, as well as often showcasing young teenage or preteen girls as vivacious and buxom adult women, confusing viewers as to how old these characters really are. In the most extreme cases, the character is drawn to look and behave like a child, but is written to be some magical 1,000-year-old deity who only takes the form of a prepubescent girl out of sheer convenience, I suppose. Sometimes it is explicitly explicitly made clear that the character is underage. However, people who enjoy this kind of content will say that since there's no real human child being harmed, it's not as serious as owning and viewing real CP. All that says to me is that Vaush's original statement is what he truly believes, that if something wasn't illegal, some way somehow this could be ethically sourced, then what would be the wrong in participating in the consumption of that product? Therefore, there can be nothing wrong with owning CP. But what is fundamentally incorrect about this argument is that children aren't products. They are human beings who factually do not possess the mental capacity to be able to consent to engage in sexual relations with fully grown adults. Children aren't inanimate objects like cobalt or cocoa beans. People don't consume these products because they are unethically sourced. But someone paying for CP knows full well that what they are paying for is the act of exploitation itself. His new argument never had a legitimate leg to stand on. Vaush knew that what he originally said made him look so bad that he was forced to backtrack his statements in order to save his reputation. The damage was done, and yet somehow Vaush continued to pile on the mountain of evidence that suggests where there is smoke, there is often bound to be a fire.
In the next portion of this video, we will be going over exactly what happened on February the 7th on Vaush's livestream. Now, the details in here are pretty disgusting, so if that is something that you would like to skip, please click to the timestamp that is located on the bottom of the screen, and I will see you there. Thank you.
So Vaush was on a live stream attempting to open a folder called Taxes, which was a subfolder in a greater one called To Be Sorted. Other subfolders include XX Vids, XX Gifts, XX Pics, and one folder simply called Old, and another entitled Sorapoi. Sorapoi ended up being a person, and his Twitter profiles were found where he links you directly to his Not Safe for Work page, where, as you can guess, he is posting inappropriate drawings of underage girls. He calls them cute, and his cuties. It's all incredibly disturbing. Well, obviously, Vaush has some connection to this person and must have been interacting with him in some way, shape, or form. Well, what do you know? Vaush was found to be interacting with this person on his secondary Twitter, and you can tell that this is his Twitter because, as you can see, he posted a picture of himself in January of this year. So he's got a folder in this greater folder on his OneDrive, specifically from this creator. Not ideal. And his fans will say that because the artist has stated that all characters are 18 years old plus, that it's actually no big deal. But he goes on to draw girls from popular anime series where the character is specifically written to be underage. Aging up a character isn't exactly the loophole that you need it to be right now. Might also be argued that this creator doesn't exclusively make loli content and possibly has some more age-appropriate content as well. Fine, but the image that appeared on Vaush's screen was of a noticeably young girl. The thumbnails on one of his folders show the top half of an image of a girl from a series called Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt. The character canonically is, no joke, a hundreds-year-old angel. But her design is very childish. She looks like a doll. Lolicon has some association with the aesthetic of Lolita-style dressing, where the goal is almost to look like a sexy Victorian baby. I mean, she looks like a kid. She's carrying a stuffed animal, for Christ's sake.
Now, knowing that the artist is a lolicon, which I have been roundly reminded of, obviously knowing that it was intended to be a loli drawing. So, like, that's how it is, right? It's a drawing, you get it without context. I know that when I saved them because both the drawings have like a meaty dick in it, and I'm a huge size queen. The other one is like a threesome with two chicks and a guy, and in retrospect, looking at it, knowing now that that artist is a lolicon, yeah, I can see it. When I looked at it, I think the vibe that I got was like, short stack thick kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like the way like goblins get drawn in porn. You'll have to entertain me for a moment on this presumed shared knowledge of how goblins get drawn in pornography. But you know how they're all like thick short stacks.
As I've dove further down this rabbit hole, I've realized that many people are saying they aren't surprised, and they knew all along that Vaush was into Loli. This isn't even based on, like, vibes, like some accusations are. It's based on Vaush's very own words.
Like, zoophile, like, drawn stuff, it should be 100% legal. In fact, and this is going to be a real hot take, I have yet to hear a convincing moral or legal argument as to why possession of child pornography should be illegal. Actual child pornography.
What if CP is free? If you're not paying for child pornography, then there is no argument in favor of morally condemning people who get it. Attached to them. I assign this to literally everything. I don't even think that like owning child pornography is a moral industry.
Fucking kill me. Do you think it's immoral to be a pedophile, and it's only immoral if you rape? What? No, being a pedophile is morally neutral. Isn't that just some shit you're born with? It's pretty fucked. It's hella immoral to rape, though.
What? How do I put this? Does anyone else get the feeling that like men, at least in the West, are kind of like taught to be kind of a little pedophile-y a little bit? There are people who have bought child porn. You probably have some information in on the system which is producing it. In practice, that's just not how you make the world a better place. Like what? Oh, you have child porn on your computer? Well, did you pay for it, or did you get it for free? And then like, oh, you paid for it? Well, to jail with you. It is possible. Please, right now, uncuck your dumb shit libcuck fucking SJW brains and recognize this empirically correct fact that I am about to spit. It is possible for an adult and a child to have a sexual relationship and for it to have positive outcomes on the child as well. That is possible.
No, we've all jerked it to Loli at some point or another. We've all. Well, you don't have a penis. We have at some point in our lives been going fucking crazy on some hentai site, and we've been fucking stroking as hard and fast as we can, and then after we nut, we go back and look over our history chat, and we go like, oh jeez, oh boy, some of these girls looked pretty young. Okay, I don't give a fuck.
Age android girl do you think the average American man would be most attracted to? Which hypothetical strip club would be the most crowded if they all opened tomorrow?
I think it would be somewhere.
Do you not
from
want to answer
14...
this question?
No, I think it'd be somewhere from 14 to 17. I don't think we've changed.
Those are big. That's a big difference.
I have no idea, and I couldn't even begin to think by which categories I would separate them. Do you have a number?
I think it's 15. It might be. I think it would be 14 at first, and then it would move up once the novelty wore off. I think it would be 15 or 16. What color? If you had to guess, what color their underwear would be, Vaush? What would you say?
I'm not sure what more context is necessary, because why even are you bringing this up so often that there's this whole dossier highlighting nearly every instance, of which there are many? You've clearly identified that you believe the average American man finds 14 to 17-year-olds most attractive, as if they aren't whole-ass underdeveloped beings. But it's okay, remember? It's okay, because it's some humanoid robot that would be perfectly ethical to enact upon your most tawdry of desires. And after all, no one chooses these feelings, right? I'm willing to believe that this is some genuine compulsion that can be curbed with access to the proper treatment and care team necessary, something that this country doesn't have, and probably will never have. And who among them is really willing to admit to themselves and to others that what they feel is a problem? I mean, Vaush would tell you today that it's a problem, but not that long ago, he would have said something completely different. Looking at the February 7th events in the greater context of Vaush's streaming career looks bad enough, but when you consider some of his behaviors that predate the inception of his channel, you start to get the sense that possibly Vaush is an entirely different person than he portrays himself to be today. Before Ian went by the name Vaush, he was actually called IrishLaddie, and he was a prominent fixture in leftist political commentator Destiny's Discord server and was frequently featured on his streams.
So, some of you know me as IrishLaddie, probably most of you, actually, but I chose that username when I was 11 years old and had a shaky sense of national identity.
Beginning in 2015, when Vaush would have only been 21 years old. He regularly engaged in back-and-forth debates with other members of Destiny's community, and made connections to at least 2 known women, who would later go on to accuse him of sexual harassment.
17. I was a member of a Discord channel which belonged to Destiny, a streamer on Twitch. And in that Discord channel, I became friends with somebody named Poppy. Poppy was known for her hot takes. I had some hot takes of my own. I thought we could form a friendship. We talked for a period of several months, and over the course of that prolonged conversation, we discussed a great many things. Often mutually. We discussed, of course, politics, our personal lives, our respective mental illnesses, sexuality, flirting, dating, all that stuff. And I thought at the time that these were perfectly normal, healthy conversations. We had a falling out around, I think, late 2017. Poppy started accusing me, quite publicly, in that Discord channel, of having sexually harassed her. This was a shock to me at the time, to say the least, because I didn't feel I had engaged in any sexual harassment. But things got quite heated quite quickly. Many of the people in the Discord took sides, myself or her. We said a great many nasty things back and forth with one another. But ultimately, nothing really came of it. A few months ago, I was a member of a Discord channel, or server, which was called Polychads. Now that's P-O-L-I, Polychads, as in politics, not P-O-L-Y, as in polyamorous. I've seen people making that mistake. And there was a person on there named Pastel. There's a debate between myself and Pastel, which is one of the earliest videos on this channel. Not that the channel's super old or anything, but still. Anyway, became evident to me a short time after I began speaking with them in the server that they were interested in me sexually. This can be corroborated by the testimony of anyone who was there at the time. They were clearly interested in me, and I'm a horny bastard, so, you know, I reciprocated interest, because, yeah, why the hell not? So I engaged with them in flirtation, both publicly and privately, until it became clear to me, through the testimony of others and through their own behavior, that Pastel was not emotionally or mentally capable of healthily engaging in any kind of e-flirtation. And I can only interpret, I don't know, I can't read other people's DMs, but it seemed to me like Poppy and Pastel spoke with one another, and this encouraged Pastel to reframe the way in which they looked at our conversation and begin publicly accusing me of having engaged in misbehavior. I later had a conversation with Pastel over voice, and from the conversation I had, it seemed to me as though Pastel did not believe that I had engaged in impropriety with them, but it still stood to show that the drama had been engaged in once more. I was banned from the Polychat server. I have grown somewhat as a person over the past year and a half, and I feel differently about those logs now. And people called me a harasser, a sexual harasser. And I thought, no, I'm not a sexual harasser. I just did those things I just described. I just pushed boundaries. I just talked about sex maybe too much. I just was perhaps not as cognizant of the conversational partner's discomfort as I could have been. Do those things make me a sexual harasser? And I've thought about it over the past few days. The question seems a little leading. You can probably tell where I got. And the answer is that it doesn't really matter what I think. And if I am to continue attempting to be any kind of left-leaning public figure, it is essential not only that I attempt to improve myself, but also that I be able to draw my personal failings to a broader social system from which they originated. I'm interested in helping young men, or young people of any gender really, but broadly young men, get better at recognizing poor behavior in themselves and learning what they can do to improve upon it in the future. And that's done.
Around September of 2017, Vaush began discoursing with a user named Poppy. Now, Poppy never used her real name and never showed her face, but it is said that she was 20 around the time that these events took place, so she was an adult woman. What I will note though, like as a woman reading these messages, I can tell that Poppy was extremely uncomfortable, and she was doing everything to avoid directly engaging with Vaush in the same manner that he was trying to with her. And it's so clear that he was trying to push her to look at his genitals, and she explicitly said no multiple times. Vaush later apologized for this in a Reddit thread, but honestly, reading through it, it just felt like I was inside the mind of a sexually stunted misogynist who can't actually understand that his approach of buddyship is a thinly veiled masquerade of his true intention, which was to engage with Poppy sexually, albeit digitally. For the other woman went by the name of Pastel, and she was said to be 21. She was known to be very sexually repressed, as in debates and conversations, she would be notably anti-sex work and anti-sexual liberation. Now, Vaush claims that one night she approached him wanting to engage in sexual sexting and flirting behavior, and he reciprocated by sending her nude images of himself. He later claimed that when he stopped talking to Pastel, she began to freak out and say that she felt like she had sinned by having that conversation with him and that she needed to starve herself to regain purity. So if this woman really fasted as an act of self-harm to rectify seeing Vaush's dick, it certainly must have been a blow to his massive ego. And it kind of seems like Vaush only makes this point to say that she harmed herself to discredit anything else that she might have to say about him. Vaush was also accused of intimidating these women into staying silent and even threatened violence upon them. Yeah, it's not looking great. Once he had started his own channel, these messages between Poppy and Pastel and Vaush respectively were forwarded to Destiny, who owned that server and was in a way responsible for bringing Vaush into that community. These messages were read aloud on a live stream, which would later be deleted because Destiny felt like these allegations would kneecap Vaush's budding career. And what a tragedy that would be. These women suffered at his hands unjustly because they were uncomfortable with something that he did to them, and then it was another man who protected him from having this ruin his career, as it probably should have, because I don't know why, bro code maybe? Once Destiny learned of these allegations, he kicked Vaush out of his community, and they've sort of had like this contention between them since. But the problem is that if Destiny felt so compelled to kick this person out of his community, why wouldn't he keep that video up so that people could be informed on what kind of person Vaush is? But the fact that that video was taken down and it wasn't readily available information anymore means that Vaush is honestly able to go under the radar, and who knows if there are other people out there who have had similar experiences with him who can't really come out and say anything because of how large his platform is. Around the same time that these messages were taking place, Vaush was actually found to have been self-reporting as a pedo and also liking and speaking with someone who identified themselves as an active sexual predator. Shortly after these events, Ian decided to change his name from IrishLaddie to what he is now known as Vaush, and this would be the name that he started his channel under, obviously. Now, some people in the political community believe that this was a means to distance himself from the Poppy and Pastel controversies, but as has been previously pointed out, the Vaush channel actually began producing content before those messages were leaked. That means, though, a case can certainly be made that Vaush knew his behavior online looked way worse than just a young man trying to rustle feathers by saying the most cringe, edgelordy shit as possible, as you may remember was the name of the game during that era on YouTube. In order to continue building his platform, I believe that Vaush intentionally cleaned up his internet presence, started advocating hard against CP and Loli, and tried to course correct the trajectory of his career. He has gone out of his way to say that if you are in possession of lolly content, then you need to examine why you feel that attraction, and that it could only possibly be rooted into some form of attraction to actual children.
Marge, statistically speaking, there are 370 people watching right now. I'd be willing to bet that at least 20 or 30 of them experience habitual sexual attraction towards children. It's surprisingly common. To those of you who do, to an extent that you feel as though it may be like a problem, please, just get some fucking help, my dude. There's nothing wrong.
Vaush pit on your midna thirst. Bet you call Tastemuki a sussy bait though. Where's the line drawn with petite women, you friggin' gonk chumba?
Well, Tatsumaki is literally lolly. Wait, I'm sorry. We gotta smack some people down. Midna's literally lolly. Midna's not a lolly. Okay, there's a reason why 98% of people who draw Midna draw her as a thick-ass post-puberty stacked, fat, dumpy imp, okay? It's not lolly to have, like, impish proportions. Tamaki, on the other hand, is literally like, what if we drew a lolly but made her an adult, so it's not a lolly? She's a lolly. She's drawn like a child. Her head is the size of her entire torso. This is from the manga. This isn't like a fan drawing. Her head is literally the size of her entire torso, and she looks like a child. She's referred to universally in the community as one. It's not even questionable. This isn't a debate topic. Tall one is younger. I think you're just being autistic here. Wait, do we legit have like coping lollies in chat? Guys, you can literally look up like Tatsumaki and people refer to her as a lolly. She's literally referred to in the community as a lolly because everyone knows it's a 28-year-old who just through coincidence is 4'6" and happens to have the exact bodily and facial proportions of a child. What a coincidence. Like the evident existence of pubescent characteristics is literally the most defining feature between adults and children. That's literally objectively the main thing that differentiates them physically. So it would make sense then that their absence of presence in a character design would make a significant difference. There is no universe in which this does not meet the definition that he's trying to construct. Just a cute little Japanese cartoon of me. Why are the O's buttholes? This is okay. I'm not gonna lie. If I saw this on like a kid's backpack, I would unironically think this is inappropriate. The way in which this is depicted just comes across as deeply sexual to me. It's like in a Heigao face with gross fucking anime eyes with these like fleshy butthole letters. Like it's very off-putting in a way that I would say is deliberate if I was dealing with like any other person, and in this case, it's probably just his last delusional fantasy of being a K-pop star, I guess, kind of.
Now those are your words, Ian, not mine, and no amount of semantics or debate bro mind fuckery can untie the noose that you hung yourself with. In the aftermath of it all, Vaush has gone back and forth with popular commentator H3H3, better known as Ethan Klein, who has definitely put a spotlight on some of Ian's previous behavior over the years, and shown that this cannot be a case of he simply didn't know that what he was looking at was Loli the way that he and his audience have been purporting this out to be. This isn't drama for the sake of drama. This is a well-respected and eloquent man using leftism and progressivism to mask his degeneracy and find comfort in his hugbox of an audience who will accept all of his excuses at face value. Ultimately, as a leftist myself, I find this story to be extremely eye-opening. Oftentimes we see people on the other side of the aisle get caught up in these very same disgusting controversies and we eat it up. We can't wait to dunk on those people, as we should. But when it comes from our own camp, I feel like it's almost so much worse. I find this whole story so compelling because it shows us that just because someone says all the right things and they appear to be on the correct side of history does not make them a good or moral person. A person who spends so much time talking about and thinking about CP is someone who needs help. Someone who has a file of porn on the same computer that they use to stream from is someone who most likely never imagined getting caught, so much so that he arrogantly condemned the very type of person that he has proven himself to be. There is more to the story. Other creators are coming out of the woodwork to sort of like insert themselves into the situation by defending Vaush and claiming that this is just a distraction from the work that they are doing politically. Like, can you imagine being so self-important to think that people are upset about CP, but it's really just about the advancements that you're making in the political space? Please. It's sad to me that you're more concerned about being right politically than you are about making sure that the people that you're collaborating with, the people that you're in association with, are good people. People that aren't participating in a commodity that affects the most vulnerable among us. To me, that is absolute clown behavior, and what a way to just come out and say that you're okay with your friend, your comrade, being attracted to the characteristics of children. Weird flex. As a former fan, former viewer of Vaush, I am definitely disappointed. At the same time, I also kind of feel like I have to reckon with the idea that I would even have information on a person like that. Like, that is not something that I or anyone in your audience should know about you. And there definitely needs to be some kind of separation between the creator and the audience. And when you start talking about these really personal things, like things that you find sexually gratifying, like that I think has to be a really clear line that you're just not a safe content creator. You can't be trusted with your platform. You can't be trusted to have this power and balance bestowed upon you. And to have people watching you who look up to you, who want to talk to you, and to be in your Discord server having sexually charged conversations with them. Like, I think at this point we have established that that is just a big creator no-no, and if you are so dumb, so dense that you continue to do it anyway, then you might just really be so deluded that you believe your own hype.